John, more than one pundit has proclaimed that the NRA's influence in the GOP is waning. I mean, that's been a storyline for a few years now, but how can that be the case if all of these presidential hopefuls are flocking to be part of this convention?
It's not the case when it comes to their influence over the base. It is the case that the NRA is a severely weakened and diminished organization because of the scandals, financial and otherwise, that have emerged in recent years and weakened the organization, the leadership of Wayne LaPierre, and caused a lot of defections from their board. But you still see these presidential candidates go to kiss the ring because at this stage, it's very much about appealing to the base. And particularly, when it comes to Second Amendment voters, the NRA is still the most powerful lobby that there is.
And Margaret, I mean, there were some various different reactions, we'll just put it that way, for the speakers. Let's start with what happened when former Vice President Mike Pence greeted the crowd. Let's listen to that.
I love you too.
I hope you gave Pence a good, warm approval. Because he is a nice man. If you want to really know the truth, he's a good man, and I heard it was very rough.
Margaret, what is your sense of that? I mean, how is Mike Pence going to win the Republican nomination when he's getting booed at an NRA convention like that?
I mean, what you see is that the NRA convention, like John referenced, it is a vestige. It is part of the base of the Republican Party. It's a specific, faction of the base of the Republican Party, which is a Trump base. There is, Mike Pence's team would argue, a deeply evangelical, observant Christian base of the party that is more likely to be sympathetic to Mike Pence as a candidate. That's at least what they're planning on. But the NRA, even though it is waning, I mean, most NRA members, as we know, are even for reasonable restrictions in gun control and gun reforms, right? They're for background checks. They're for safety checks. There are moderate Republicans and NRA members who are absolutely for moving this debate forward. But it has become a special interest of the Republican Party that is beholden to the base. And so it no longer functions as an issue advocacy organization as much as a arm of the Republican Party.
Yeah, and if I could just add, though, there's a particular irony for a group that says it's all about defending the Constitution, booing a vice president who did more than any other individual on January 6th to defend the Constitution. Let's not forget that.
But I guess I can hear there are folks I have to imagine there are folks at home who are frustrated about all of this, given what took place in Nashville, given what took place in Louisville, that we just can't get to a place where any kind of, real meaningful gun control legislation can get passed in this country. And it does seem as though when you have major presidential candidates at the NRA, that is the main stumbling block.
Can I just say, Jim, I mean, that's absolutely true when it comes to gun reform. It's absolutely true when it comes to reasonable restrictions around abortion. It's absolutely true when it comes to questions of climate control. So if you are an issue, climate change, if you are an issue advocacy voter, if there's an issue that is important to you, maybe what you ought to look at is the kind of election reforms that are going to depolarize the country and start representing the majority of Americans and not a narrow faction of a base of one political party.
Yeah. Amen. And John, this afternoon, Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp is urging fellow Republicans to move on from election fraud claims. CNN obtained a copy of remarks Kemp prepared for a private RNC donor retreat. He doesn't really name Trump, but Kemp says 2020 is ancient history. Not a single swing voter in a single swing state will vote for our nominee if they choose to talk about the 2020 election being stolen. I mean, I guess, he points for, he is saying it in a roundabout way. He's not going after Trump by name, though. But how significant is that?
Look, Kemp deserves a lot of credibility for not going along with this nonsense in the wake of the election in the first place. Now, he's decided, he said he himself, there was speculation he might run. But I don't understand why these folks who are condemning, this obsession with election lies, to afraid to name names. It's not like people aren't aware what they're saying. There's this tiptoeing around, even in Chris Christie, indulging this kind of thing. Just call it what it is, a lie, and the person who's propagating it more than any other human being, Donald Trump. Full stop. That's courage. That's clarity.
And we just haven't seen any of that. But John and Margaret, hang on. I know we don't do this very often during these segments, but I want you to stand by because we actually do have some news coming into CNN. This just into CNN, a big turnabout at Fox News. The right-wing channel has formally apologized to the judge overseeing the Dominion voting systems lawsuit against the network. In a letter which was dated Friday and filed with the court, Fox attorney Blake Rohrbacher said the network never intended to mislead about owner Rupert Murdoch's role at the company. It reads, quote, "We understand the court's concerns, apologize, and are committed to clear and full communication with the court moving forward." The letter goes on to say we should have provided to the court a complete and prompt response to the court's questions concerning the identities of all of Fox News' officers. We apologize and never intended to avoid responding to a question from the court. On the phone right now to explain are Marshall Cohen, who is covering the upcoming trial. Marshall, this is extraordinary. Fox News does not apologize very often.
Jim, it's an apology directly to the judge after they got scolded repeatedly in court. Jim, this is all about Rupert Murdoch and his role, not just at the parent company, Fox Corporation, but also Fox News. For years in this litigation, Fox said that Murdoch was only involved at the parent company and not involved at Fox News. Dominion says that this prohibited them from getting access to more of Murdoch's documents, emails, phone logs, other material that it wanted to get in the discovery process. It came out just about a week ago that Fox News, those representations that it had been making, that Murdoch did not have a role at Fox News, at the network, that he actually did. He was an executive officer there, and the judge was not happy because the judge had been told by Fox multiple times that he had no role at the company. It's very legal, it's very complicated, but the bottom line here was that this whole sort of keep away, hide the ball situation really upset the judge, so much so that he decided to bring in a special master, a third-party attorney, to investigate Fox, to look into the possibility that they may have intentionally lied to the court and withheld evidence. And in this new letter, Jim, Fox is clearly saying they didn't lie, it was a misunderstanding, and they are very, very sorry. But all of this is happening on the eve of trial. We're just a day away. Monday morning is when we're expecting things to reconvene in Wilmington with the end of jury selection and the beginning of opening statements. So on the eve of trial, a mea culpa from Fox News.
Wow, that is a big development. All right, Marshall Cohen, thank you very much. Let me get back to John Avlon and Margaret Hoover. Sorry, pardon the interruption, as they say, guys, but I mean, this case, this Dominion case against Fox, I'm blown away by the fact that Fox actually apologized for something. That does not happen very often. But to have this sort of thing happen in the case, in the courtroom with the judge going after them right before this trial gets started, that cannot be good.
Let me just say, you're right. Fox is not inclined to apologize to their viewers, to their hosts, to the victims of sexual assault or intimidation. But they're going to apologize to a judge because they have a $1.2 billion judgment in front of them. If you're going to tell the truth to anyone, it's somebody who really holds your faith, because there's not just this lawsuit, there are future lawsuits. And so I think it is telling, but I think it's also different than owning responsibility and moral responsibility for the havoc they have wreaked on the public.
Well, putting that aside, the idea that this was some misunderstanding they're trying to clear up is totally disingenuous. This has been an institutionalized misunderstanding. It's big news that on the eve of them finally going to trial, they're trying to do a little prevent defense and clean up for the judge.
That was after the whole day in court, basically.
No. But I mean, they're trying to clean things up and sort of, say it was all a terrible misunderstanding. No, I mean, what the reality is they're about to enter, as a CNN headline said the other day, the real no-spin zone, which is court. And they're not going to get away with the kind of lies and obfuscation they've gotten away with for so long. So they're trying to clean it up, but the rot is deep.
Yeah.